It's my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker. Aysha Schomburg is Associate Commissioner of the Children's Bureau, Administration of Children, Youth, and Families at the United States Department of Health and Human Services. She joined the Biden administration in March 2021 after serving as the Senior Administrator for Program Oversight in New York City's Administration for Children's Services. There she worked collaboratively with agency leaders to develop and implement plans for the operational infrastructure at ACS, while also developing and coordinating comprehensive organizational capacity building strategies across programs. She also coordinated frontline guidance during the COVID-19 public health crisis. Associate Commissioner Schomburg began her career at ACS as the Director of Parent Recruitment, where she focused on supporting foster and prospective adoptive parents. She also served as the Director of Youth Development Initiatives at the agency. Among many responsibilities and accomplishments, she provided counsel to New York City's Office of Equity Strategies regarding implementation of the ACS Race Equity Plan. And she has provided recommendations to the agency on how to tackle inequities and racism in child welfare. In 2019, she was awarded the ACS Distinguished Service Award for assisting children separated from their families at the border. So join me in welcoming Associate Commissioner Schomburg. Please welcome her to the stage.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank Chair Cooksey for having me here and the Board of Trustees. Thank you to President Lee. We've been having a very robust conversation about jury duty at the table. Congratulations to all of the award recipients. Really nice to be here, to be sort of present and with this award ceremony. I also want to congratulate my dear friend, someone who I'm very, very proud of, President Dr. Daria Willis, who was recently installed as the president of Howard Community College. Daria, will you stand up? I got goosebumps. I'm so excited, so proud of her. Here we're talking about community colleges improving the lives of entire families, and I was asked to come and talk specifically about our work at the Children's Bureau, where we focus on supporting families impacted by foster care. So let me get started, because we want to get to some Q&A. And I have this trusty gizmo here to move the slides. So we're going to talk about pomp and circumstance, clearing the path to graduation for foster care impacted young adults. And I realize I can look down there, which is great. So just a little bit about the Children's Bureau for those of you who don't know. It's basically the federal agency responsible for child welfare. It was codified or born to some degree in 1912, so it's over 100 years old now. And we provide, grants to states, tribes, and territories. We obviously, in addition to supporting the work of states where child welfare is concerned and jurisdictions, we also have, of course, monitoring protocols. We have data sets. We collect some data. And we provide technical assistance to states, jurisdictions, territories all around the country. One of our priorities is really about supporting best practices and spreading the best practice work around the country that we know is happening. So we're 7 divisions, 10 regional offices around the country. So I like to share my vision when I come into rooms like this. It's just really wonderful. I was saying to my colleagues here that, this is my life's work. I've been doing it for, over 22 years now, supporting children in foster care. My life's work is around supporting youth. Youth come from families, so I love to uplift families. And it's just really extraordinary to be in this room with all of you. It's when you have like over 1,800 people and someone comes and asks you to talk about your life's work. It's really humbling. When I was developing my vision after I was appointed to this position, I was in a room with some colleagues and we were talking about a vision, and I thought about why I do the work that I do. Like when it gets really, really tough, why do I do this work? And I do it because I love the families that I serve. I love children and families. And so I wanted to start my vision with that. And there were people who said, oh, that's not professional. We got to talk about protection and government and all that. And I said, when you're doing the work that we do of supporting vulnerable families, love is the most professional work. So, thank you. Thank you. So, our vision, a loving approach to helping children obtain what they need to live with dignity by comprehensively supporting families through a collaborative network of carefully selected resources and effective public and private investments grounded in community and culture, very important, and a workforce fully devoted to serving with intentional equity. So equity, and I know you all know about this because I just watched the award ceremony, and some of you are already getting awards for your work in this area, but equity is really the foundation for all of our priority goals, not only at the Children's Bureau, but also at the Administration for Children and Families and at HHS as a whole. We really, in this administration, the president in his first day in office signed an executive order advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities. And we at the Children's Bureau have leaned all the way into that, and that is the foundation for all of our goals. We want equitable treatment, equitable access, equitable outcomes for all the families that we serve. And so the following are our priority goals at the Children's Bureau. Of course, number one, we want to prevent children from coming into foster care. We want to support for kinship caregivers. We want to ensure that youth leave care with strengthened relationships, holistic supports, and opportunities. That was a third goal that I actually developed in concert with young people who told me what it is that they needed when they were leaving foster care or aging out of foster care. And the final one is investing in the child welfare workforce. But today we're going to really go into goal 3 because when we're thinking about community college and we're thinking about education for our young people, it falls square into that goal. Ensuring youth leave care with strengthened relationships, holistic supports, and opportunities. And so I love this picture here. You see this young person hugging another person. Young people want to be connected to adults. They want to be connected to people who can help them move forward through life, particularly young people in foster care who maybe they have connections to their families of origin, maybe they don't, maybe their connections are strained. But what they've said is that we really need, even if it's just that one adult to help us get to our goals and get through our goals, that's what we need. So here we want to provide, normative experiences, healthy experiences for young people who are in foster care. Some people say we're in foster care and we want to be like normal teens. We want to ensure they have a successful transition to adulthood, right? So community college is really important there, critical, I'd say, for most. And empower youth to chart their life's course after foster care. Now I want to go into a little bit of a snapshot of the data, just to give you a general sense of what it looks like around the country. But before I do, whenever I'm talking to groups of people, I always want to be in close proximity to whatever it is I'm talking about. And so today we're talking about community college, and yesterday I had a conversation with a young man who aged out of foster care. I will call him Kevin. He knows I'm sharing his story today. But he talked to me about, while he was in foster care in high school, he went to 6 high schools. This was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And, he was not a very good student at all, but he was went from high school to high school. Part of it was moving around because that's what a foster care brings for some. But he wanted to go to college. And I said to him, well, why did you want to go to college? He said, I didn't want to be like my parents. So he said, I applied to the community college, and they said I had to take a remedial exam. And he said, I took the remedial exam, didn't expect that I would do well enough because, he said I wasn't a great student. He said, but I got into the community college. And he was excited, but also at that point, relatively unhoused. So he's also dealing with his housing situation, and so he talked to me about his mental health. So he's about to go and take this step into community college, but he's also dealing with his mental health issues. And he finally gets a housing where, so long as he has a job, he can stay in this particular housing. And so he gets a job at Foot Locker, he gets a job at some bagel spot. He applies to the community college, and there's something funny about his birth certificate, they think. And this happens to a lot of young people in foster care where their documentation is, they may not even have it, they may have to go and get a copy. And so every semester he had to be verified, and he recalled just feeling very nervous about that and how that impacted him. And I'll talk about Kevin throughout this presentation, but when I asked him about how he made it through a community college, he talked about having one person that he could go to that would help him even when he wasn't doing well, or when he thought about not returning for a semester, what he could who encouraged him to take the next step. So keep Kevin in mind, because I'm going to keep him in mind as I talk to you about what we can do to support young people in foster care getting not only to college, but through college. So here's a snapshot of the foster care data. You'll see that there are about 429,000 kids in foster care. I think that's actually 420,000 now. And you can look at that first a table that shows how they're entering, where they are, and what they look like actually in this since the pandemic in 2020. And it looks at numbers exited, so you have 420,000 in. There's about 216, I think, exiting during the course of this time of 2016 to 2020. You can look at what happens with young people coming into foster care children. Most of them are reunified with their parents. That's what you want. Foster care is supposed to be temporary. Ideally, you wouldn't have a need for it at all, but if you have to have it, you want it to be temporary. You want to keep children with their kin most of the time, and in their communities, right, and with their cultural practices. Some are adopted, and some actually age out. That's where you see sort of emancipation. And in the lower left-hand corner, this tells you, what the race and ethnicity look like of the population of children entering in foster care. So mostly Native American or Alaska Native, 2 or more races, and then Black or African American. And this is a nationwide statistic. So we took a look at our data at the Children's Bureau, and we don't actually require or collect a lot of data about youth transitioning into educational programs. But what we did find is that 7% of youth at the age of 21 are in some sort of program, and we don't break it down. Our data doesn't break it down. It could be vocational, it could be an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. And that 24% were enrolled in or attending an educational program by the age of 21. So I'm sorry, the first one is about receiving a certificate of some sort, either a degree, and 24% enrolled. And then we looked at the California Youth Study, Cal Youth Study. 68% of the youth enrolled in college, right? 9.6% completed. 6% completed, of that, right, 6% completed a 2-year degree. 3.6% completed a 4-year degree. And I think that 3.6% is really about standard where we are nationally for young people in foster care, right, graduating. So you see they enroll, but also very few actually complete their degree. And the Illinois study, which I think was specific to community college, 35% of the young people who turned 17 in foster care enrolled in college. 86% enrolled in community college and were community college students. 8% of those community college students graduated with a certificate or degree. So we have a lot of work to do to get to that, to clear that path to graduation. Foster youth and community college. And so this is data that came from Think of Us organization. They surveyed 27,000 youth in foster care pre-pandemic, just before the pandemic. I think it was 2020, maybe during the pandemic. And 16% approximately went from being enrolled full-time in community college to going to part-time post-pandemic. 55% remained enrolled in community college full-time. 8% transitioned to a 4-year university full-time, and 6% transitioned to a 4-year university part-time. As you all know, a lot of community college students are young mothers, and that is often the case with young people who are aging out of foster care. They are parents, and so part-time tends to be a better option for them. So what are some of the barriers in applying for college? And so you heard me say where Kevin is concerned, right? He didn't have his birth certificate. He said, yesterday, he said, I don't know, they just thought maybe it was faulty or something was funny about it. Maybe it was like, fraudulent. And so every semester they had me verify it again, and it was, was really nerve-wracking. But a lot of young people who are aging out of foster care don't have all the documents. They may not even have like a social security card, things that we would be asking for upon enrollment. And so they often need help just with getting their documentation squared away. Difficulty in applying for financial aid, you need help with this. We offer education and training vouchers, but you have to know that it's there. When I talk to young people, they said, it depends. You might have a great caseworker and she knows everything and she walks you through, but then some of us, if we don't have that caseworker that tells us, here, you can apply for an education and training voucher, or you can get a scholarship here. If you don't have that, then, some of us are at a disadvantage. So I called it random access to information, and one of the young women I was talking to a couple of months ago, she really liked it. She said, what did you call it? I said, random access to information. We need to be more streamlined and make sure that not only young people know what they can take advantage of, but that our professionals know what young people can take advantage of, so that they're in a better place to apply for all these things. So scholarships, obviously the FAFSA, young people in foster care don't necessarily have parents with a lot of money who can just write that check for tuition. Kevin told me, he said, when I got to community college, he eventually went to a 4-year, got his 4-year degree, and eventually got his master's degree, so you should know that. He's doing well. But he said, I saw that other young people, they had parents who, would send them money if they need things, pay their bills. He was like, I didn't have that, so I needed to work hard. I needed to work 2 jobs if I had to work 2 jobs to make it through, and not only to maintain my housing, but so that I could eat. Right? So when you think about young people, particularly, we learned during the pandemic, they may be, unhoused, housing insecure, food insecure. If you think about that just across the board for any young person in this country, as my colleague at the Children's Bureau describes it, it's on steroids for young people in foster care, right? This need for just basic concrete supports. So here we are, barriers, right? Housing and food insecurity, we talked about that. They need academic counseling, tutoring, and support. So Kevin says, it's funny because we can laugh about it now, but he's like, it wasn't funny then. He was like, I was struggling to maintain a 2.4, grade point average so I could pledge. He wanted to pledge a particular fraternity. He's now a member, but he remembers really needing that help. And that just feeling, he said, I felt alone, like I was alone. I didn't have parents. I didn't necessarily have a big family, and that affected his mental health, and he really needed to. And he ended up, he didn't really have a lot of support for his mental health. He ended up just being, he said, being a loner, but he felt he felt compelled to succeed. And so he was sort of internally driven, but it really wasn't easy for him, and he talks about that. And then, of course, parenting challenges, lack of childcare. This is across the board for parents in this country, but certainly for young parents, and difficulty trying to, balance work and academic studies. And I mean, some of you may know recently Howard Community College created a study area where you can actually bring your children, and there's an area. I got you. So, when I saw pictures of this study area where you can, students can come and actually have their children in a safe place and they can play, I thought, wow, isn't that a model for, supporting young parents and children? Yes, the President Willis making moves already. So, what are some of the promising practices? Like what can we do to support young people in foster care trying to get through college? And, one of the things is young people need to know that, again, access to all of the resources, but money, scholarships are great. Right? Could you imagine just going through college and not necessarily having to worry about, when the tuition bill is coming? Because they come real quick. And so in New York City, they recently started a college choice program. And I should say, listen, I spent about 20 years in New York City government. And my most recent position was at New York City Children's Services as Senior Administrator for Program Oversight. And we had a partnership with CUNY, which is now, it's college choice, which means that you don't have to choose necessarily a CUNY school, which is a City University of New York school, but you can choose any school, and there's housing. A lot of the young people would come, be Christmas break or fall break, whatever, and they, young people in foster care don't necessarily have a place to stay, right? They're looking for a place to stay during the Christmas break or during the summer break, so you need to think about that too. Again, housing, tuition, living expenses. This is what Kevin was saying. How am I have to feed myself. I have to, do all of those things. So New York City College Choice has thought through all of that. Virginia also has a community college Great Expectation programs where there's a grant that covers tuition. There are, I think, 21 community colleges that are participating and provide coaches for young people. This coaching model is really important. It's really important to young people. It's helping young people get through college. We want to get that 3.7% graduation rate up. They need coaches. They need people that they can rely on, that they can call on, and who can help them to get to the next step, and who can encourage and inspire them to do so. And this Virginia program provides, of course, college application assistance and life skills training. California College Pathways, it's a statewide partnership to help youth succeed not only in community college, but also four-year universities, and there are 217 colleges that have designated a point of contact known as a Foster Youth Success Initiative Liaison. I want to talk a little bit about that for a second because, when we talk about how we help young people in foster care, we kind of have to know, who they are, and we don't always know. They don't always want you to know, so there's that. But do we actually know the universe of young people who are in foster care or foster care impacted, having aged out of foster care, at our colleges? And, even if we don't necessarily have that number, we're not collecting it, you may need for young people to self-disclose. I think it's helpful to have a liaison, an office, somewhere where I could go, right, if I was aged out of foster care or in foster care, and I could walk in and I could say to a person, a professional, yes, here's my situation. I'm aging out of foster care. This is why my documentation is not, pulled together, or I need help in a particular area, or hey, I'm housing. I need housing, and can you help me with that? They need to know that they have a place where they can go, that they can walk into to get the help. So really important on that piece. And Florida also has a Pathways program that supports children in foster care, students in foster care who can receive, tuition and fee waivers. So this is some of what we're doing at the Children's Bureau. We partner with our sister agency at the Department of Education, and some of what we've done are urban institutes, and where we talk about results from the Chafee Education and Training Voucher Evaluation. So Chafee is and long story short, it's a federal opportunity program that supports young people generally, but has specific supports for young people who are pursuing college. We have partnered with the Department of Education on we partnered with them actually on a report for students that are transitioning out of care, how we can support them. There's a SETA Scholars, as I mentioned here, and it's a program, it's a scholarship program for young people in foster care. But you know, that number of young people who are in foster care who are, I think, graduate with the SETA Scholars is about 32%. So that also has a coaching model, really important, and we see that number going up when we're partnering young people with that strengthened relationship, that relationship to an adult or adults who can help. And again, a briefing that we did together on supporting youth transitioning out of foster care. And then coming up on November 10th, we're going to partner with the U.S. Department of Education on a webinar, how we support students. Mostly we're talking about secondary school students in this webinar, but of course, right, secondary school is the step toward community college. So what community leaders can do? Establish a foster care point of contact who can provide individualized support to students. Now, it may not be one person. It all depends on, you know, what your college community looks like, how many students you're talking about. You may need a team of people, but that point of contact, really important. Extra academic supports for students that are in remedial classes. You know, just be reminded that young people in foster care often move around a lot. They go from school to school. We don't like that. We don't want that, and we try to prevent it, but it does happen. And so that the disruptions in their education often mean that they're behind in high school, or they're behind by the time they get to community college. Ensure that young people have housing all year round. And this is not only for young people in foster care, right? But young people generally, especially post-pandemic folks, are really struggling with housing. Provide wraparound services, financial, social, emotional, and in some cases you may need to develop some data sharing agreements. And this is also just so you know, like, who's actually, you know, in your college community. And it may mean partnering with child welfare agencies or other institutions. But also, you know, what's not here, and what I want to mention is really just, you know, fundraising. You all do it, but fundraising specifically for the category of youth in foster care. The more scholarships, the better. The more people that we can get to become coaches for young people in foster care also work. So be thinking about that as well. And so that is the end of my presentation. I know we want to get to some Q&A, but you know, just a note about Kevin. He graduates from community college in Pittsburgh. He decides that he wants to pursue his bachelor's degree. He goes through school. It's a tough time. He has a tough time, but he gets through it. And I said to him, well, how did you know, who helped you? He leaves Foot Locker, and he gets this job in child welfare. And they partly hired him because he had been in foster care, and he wasn't really sure if he wanted to do that either, but he did it. And that his boss, he said, she let me do my homework, my schoolwork, while I was working. And she said, no matter what, you're going to get through college. And so she gave him like grace and leeway. She let him stay late because if he needed a quiet place to study, he could stay late in the office. And he said, and I said, wow. I said, does she know? He said, she changed my life. I said, does she know? He said, she absolutely knows, and I asked her to be my godmother, and she's, you know, by my side today. And so this is the impact that she's had on his life. And then he actually signed up for the military, goes to the Air Force. He goes to the Air Force because he knows that if he does the right thing, he'll be able to go to grad school, and, you know, they'll pay for it. And they did. He was doing so well in the Air Force. He was like, he's like, look, I was in South Dakota. I was, you know, stationed overseas. I was lonely. I didn't really want to be there, but it was a means to an end. And he goes and he gets his master's degree in social work from Howard University. And he's working basically in child welfare, doing some extraordinary things. And so he's a real success story, but his story really starts at community college. So I want to leave you with that, and thank you so much for having me.
We're going to do question and answers from here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
because we don't have much time.
Sure.
based on the amount of time we got, we're just going to do a couple of questions from the audience. If you'd have the microphones, we're going to do them from the podium. I do have a rule. I'd like in the first 4 sentences that you articulate a question. I'm used to working with attorneys every day. They want to do their opening statement every time they ask a witness a question. I can't see the microphone, so let's, is there, over here? All right, would you please, there's a microphone here, and there's one, and one over here. All right, there's 2 microphones. If you want to come forward, please state your name and the college if you have any questions. It was a great program. Anybody coming forward? So, don't see any, oh, there we go. All right, come on over.
Ask a question. Okay, so hi, my name is Josh Elizondo. I am from the California Community College Board of Governors. I'm a student and also a former foster youth myself, so I really appreciate this conversation, and I resonate with a lot of what's been said. I would like to ask a question regarding, as you know, we're all on trustees and boards in this room, so we're a little removed from the student experience in some senses. And so how would you, I have a lot of thoughts about this myself, of what I would do, but I would like to know how you would talk to us about the role of boards and listening to and empowering students and making sure that we are not recreating the trauma that was brought to those that went through foster care.
Yeah, thank you for that, and congrats on your award as well. So you all hold the power, right? People listen to what the boards determine the direction often, and you know, have the power to help a college decide what's important, right? And so you all are in this room, and you could leave this room and not think about young people in foster care, or you could leave this room and say, you know, at our next board meeting, we need to talk about what we're doing for young people in foster care. You know, do we know at our colleges, you know, how many foster care youth we actually have, and or what they need? Have we asked them? Have we even said, if you're in foster care, we want to hear from you? And so I think there's a lot of power in this room, even though it feels removed. I don't think it's removed at all. You have the power to steer certain things in the direction in a way that will be supportive of young people in foster care. The re-traumatizing is really, it's tricky. You know, everyone is, every individual is different, and young people in foster care are different. There are some who are really comfortable sharing their story and, you know, frankly, like I said with Kevin, inspired him to do all that he did, and there are some who are a little less inclined to share. And so this is where social workers are really important. A lot of times when I am in a room talking to young people maybe about their experience, we always have you know, social workers or people who can, you know, if we re-trigger something for them, that they can they have an opportunity to kind of work those things through with a professional. So also think about having social work staff, you know, on your teams to be able to work through some of that and prevent re-traumatization where it's possible.
Hello, everyone. My name is LaShonda Thomas with Lansing Community College, and my parents did foster care, so they've adopted 5 altogether. And my question for you is, what is your plan? I know it's a big work because it seems they run to the community college for whatever reason, and then the numbers just plummet. Mm-hmm. So do you have any idea of the direction maybe that you're going to go in?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't run a college. I do, you know, you all do. And so I do feel, though, and thank you for that question, and congratulations on the 5 adoptions. That's amazing. But I do think, I think the coaching, if I had to pick one thing that I think helps young people get from that enrollment to the graduation, is that coaching piece, a person in their life or people in their life who are there to inspire them, right? Really authentically say, here, you're going to get to that next level. And that means like allowing young people to make mistakes. I was in Arkansas in a particular organization called Immerse, and one of the young people said, you know, I feel like I can keep coming here because I can make mistakes and they'll still have me back, right? So know that our young people make mistakes, let them make them. Let them make them 2, 3, 4 times, but still be there, stand by them, and help them to get that degree, that sheepskin, as my grandmother used to call it.
We have one more question, Angela.
Okay.
Thank you. Angela Matthews, also from Lansing Community College. I'm hoping I'm going to ask this question correctly. Are there monies, financial assistance, that follows the aged-out foster person that they receive on a monthly basis or at some particular point in time?
You know, we learned a lesson during the pandemic, which is that one of the rules that we changed during the pandemic, which was a pandemic emergency rule, was that young people wouldn't age out, that they wouldn't just be aged out and, like, you know, not have access to all of the things that they needed, that if young people wanted to stay in foster care to take advantage of any of the benefits of that they could. And we generally learned from young people that they really appreciated it, that they need that. I've heard from many young people that they need support even beyond aging out. Some of them, they age out at some places 18, some places 21. That's not, you know, that's young. And so we have proposed at the Children's Bureau that we support young people, and we've put some of these things in the President's budget proposal up through the age of, you know, 26 or 27, right? And it's a proposal. So so there are some steps to take there, but we know that young people need support. This is anybody, you know, not only young people in foster care, but young people in general. If you have children in your 20s, you know that they, I'm looking at my colleague, Tamika, you know that they need help way beyond 21, and so we want to be there to support, and we think that it's in the best interest of this nation to support our young people. They're the next wave of adults. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Associate Commissioner Schomburg, thank you so much for